This is the eternal life of Goldman, a 2D action platformer inspired by ancient fables, fairy tales, myths, legends, and depicted in classic frame-by-frame animation. You play as the titular Goldman who traverses a vibrant yet dark world on a quest to kill a being called the Deity. It's a game made by the Cyprus-based Weepy Studio and it's published by THQ Nordic. What makes it tick? Well, there's a quote on the Steam page that summarized it quite well, I think. Remember how, when you were a child, you first saw your first 16-bit platformer and couldn't believe your eyes? We want you to experience those feelings again, or maybe for the first time. The animation and art in this game is nothing short of extraordinary, and it really does reawaken that childlike wonder in you. And in a genre that feels like it can rarely surprise you anymore with its level design or gameplay mechanics, Goldman constantly finds that elusive innovation. For example, instead of a traditional weapon, you have a walking stick which you can use to pogo on enemies and pull on items with the stick's handle. There's also this level with these worms that react to you crouching or jumping, and it's used for platforming but also in a boss fight. In general, the boss encounters also are very inventive and clever. Through its art and also its gameplay mechanics and level design, it just captures something fresh in a genre that feels so oversaturated by now. As for the downsides, I think there's too much redundant dialogue that doesn't really add much, and you'll absolutely be skipping it, but that's just a minor complaint. The Eternal Life of Goldman is coming out on PC, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, as well as Nintendo Switch, but there's no concrete release date yet. But that was just the first game that caught my attention during this latest Steam Next Fest. If you don't know what that is, it's a quarterly event hosted by Steam where tons of indie developers have the chance to show off their game with a demo. This latest Next Fest is running until March 2nd and once again offers literally hundreds upon hundreds of demos from upcoming titles. It can be quite overwhelming to find the ones that are actually worth playing. But that's what I did. I sifted through dozens of demos and found some real gems among the overwhelming amount of games. Out of the 14 I tried, these are the 6 that impressed me the most and that I think should absolutely be on your wishlist and radar. But before we get into that, hi, I'm Jerry and welcome to my channel Scharfsinn, a place all about gaming. Reviews, first impressions, essays, discussions, all of that and more right here. I also like to write reviews over on my backlog profile to share my experiences with the games that I play. If any of that sounds interesting to you, I'd be glad to see you stick around. But now let's continue. So this is Denshattack and, well, how to describe it? Imagine a skating game and an arcade racing game, except you're not a skateboarder, you're not a racer, but a train. Yes, a train. A flipping, drifting, grinding and racing train. It's a mix of Tony Hawk's Pro Skater, Subway Surfers, Burnout Paradise, all of that somehow mixed into one, set in a vibrant but dystopian Japan. And it's classic video game stuff. You beat these missions which are either time trials or point-based where you have to score the most amount of different tricks, beat challenges, defeat opponents, all that stuff. It's made by the indie studio Undercoders from Barcelona. And what makes it tick is just this super unique spin on familiar genres, which I just haven't seen before. And the gameplay is also incredibly tight, fast and snappy, it just feels so good to play. And there's also some great variety. In the demo there's this one part where you ride a Ferris wheel, and in the trailers you can see different boss encounters and very different kinds of levels. Just like with Goldman, the only downside is that there's too much superfluous dialogue, but thankfully there isn't much of it, so you can also easily skip it. This is a really fun game and I think you should totally check it out. It's coming out on PC, PS5 and Xbox Series X and S sometime in the second quarter of 2026. This is Phonopolis, a point-and-click adventure game set in a world where everyone listens to the gospel of the loudspeakers. You control a young man called Felix, who, protected by his headphones, has broken free from the loudspeaker's control and finds himself in the streets of the cardboard city of Phonopolis. The city is under the imminent threat of falling under the control of the city's authoritarian leader once and for all, making its inhabitants lose their humanity. Young Felix must try to stop the leader from playing the absolute tone. This game has plenty of tongue-in-cheek and slapstick humor and this brilliant handcrafted animation made with cardboard. It's made by Amanita Design, an indie studio hailing from the Czech Republic, who are known for their handcrafted and surreal worlds. For example, they made the acclaimed Machinarium and Samorost 3. This game really stands out because of a staggeringly beautiful animation and art style, which uses traditional 12 FPS animation reminiscent of classic stop-motion films, and it just looks so incredible, and you can really tell that so much effort and time went into it. There's even a making of and the demo of how they made it. It's quite interesting and really inspiring. But aside from that, the game also has some very inventive puzzles and some fun narration that guides you through it and creative world building. The demo is quite short, but it's so promising, and honestly I can't wait to play more of it. It's coming to PC and Mac sometime in 2026.
All that remains is to slay the fool. And here you are.
This is Lunar Abyss, a first-person action-adventure game with a focus on bullet hell combat and platforming. It's set in a dystopian techno future with these larger-than-life structures, huge pipes and weaving cables, and it's a striking aesthetic. It was made by Quali Labs and it's their debut indie title actually, and what made this game stand out to me is above all the combat. Punchy weapons, good enemy variety, even in such a short demo, and there's a rock, paper, scissors style design with some of the enemies where you have to use a specific weapon to break a shield, which is a bit reminiscent of something like Doom Eternal, even if it's much simpler here. And especially in the second level of the demo, the combat starts to become quite challenging actually, and you start to get into a flow state that is not easy to get right in games, and I think this game has the potential to do that. There's also decent voice acting and potentially interesting world building. However, this game does have some more issues. For example, Golden Path is a big problem. So the Golden Path is basically the way forward and how the game subtly guides you to the right way. And this game has some problems with that, because that way often isn't clear, and paths that look like you can take them are blocked by invisible walls. Especially in the second level, this is quite a big issue. Also, the writing is rather inconsistent. The serious lines of dialogue are decent, but everything that's self-aware and quirky funny, that just breaks immersion and feels out of place in this world. The movement is also rather floaty, which can inhibit the platforming in certain parts and makes it unnecessarily frustrating. To add one more nail to the coffin, the world also feels empty in a way that doesn't feel quite organic. But despite these many downsides, the combat and aesthetic won me over, and maybe they will win you over as well, because I think this game is still quite fun to play and just looks fantastic. Lunar Abyss is coming to PC, PS5 and Xbox Series X and S sometime this year.
In our desperation, we called to you, warrior, to stand against the darkness.
This is ARMATUS. It's a roguelike first-person shooter set in a dystopian Paris that is overrun by demons. And there's some clear influence from the likes of Returnal here. ARMATUS is being made by Counterplay Games, who made the awful Godfall, but this is a big step up, I promise. What makes ARMATUS tick is the combat, of course, and it's surprisingly addictive, which I could not have said for Godfall, let that be known. There are just some fun abilities and weapons here, there's some good enemy variety and challenge too, and the upgrades that you can get for your weapons abilities actually make a difference. So all in all, this game just nails the fundamentals that a roguelike shooter has to nail. Also, the title screen goes incredibly hard, just look at it. As for the downsides, this game is super blurry for some reason, even when you turn off motion blur. There's also a lack of variety in its levels, and the reticle and hit markers need some work. But most of these are things that could easily be fixed in a few patches. I just had a blast playing this, and I could actually play it again right now, and I think that's a really good sign. And I just hope that this is the game that makes the studio, well, recover from the disaster that was Godfall. This game is coming out on PC, PS5, Xbox Series X and S, as well as Nintendo Switch 2, sometime in 2026. The last game on my list is one I already shouted out a few months ago, and it's Replaced. A 2D action platformer set in a retro-futuristic world, where you play as the AI Reach, who involuntarily inhabits the body of a human, which creates a dynamic not unlike the one between V and Johnny Silverhand in Cyberpunk 2077. It's made by the indie studio Sad Cat Studios, and it's also their debut game actually. The game so far consists of light environmental puzzles, platforming, simplified Batman Arkham-style combat with a focus on countering attacks, some light stealth sections and basic exploration. This game is carried by its aesthetic and atmosphere, obviously, which are just as fantastic as in the trailers, and they more than make up for any of the gameplay shortcomings, because yes, I won't lie, the combat and platforming are arguably too simple and familiar, and if you're looking for deep gameplay, you'll be disappointed. But I think from the start it was obvious that this game was all about the vibes and aesthetic, so I was more than satisfied with this, and I think it should also land on your wishlist. It's coming out on April 14th on PC and Xbox Series X and S, as well as Xbox One actually. I can imagine it might come out later for PS5, but that's not confirmed. These were all the 6 games that I was most impressed by in the Steam Next Fest, but let me know down below if you found any more gems that I might have missed. I'll be very eager to check out some more cool demos, because this is always just a great opportunity to find some new stuff that you just haven't seen before, and it's always a delight to find some gems in this fest. That being said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again in the next one. Take care.